Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Child of the Thorn event, in which the Thorn Scout is added to the game. So, today we're going to be going over all the teams for the week, as well as we got ourselves a new Doom weapon type. We got ourselves the Shields. Unfortunately, it does seem like they won't be as good when you compare them to what the current armor boosting weapons are. Things like our Skia Shield, Golden Cog, similar things like that, which are their main competition as far as if they're going to get used, and they definitely seem pretty situational, but some of them might end up working out, but we'll get to them once we go over to Tower of Doom. Let's go in order and start from the top with the new Glory Troop. Has Green, Brown, Arcane if you want to go and stock up on them for 300 each. As far as your troop itself, it deals some damage to an enemy, boosted by Entangled gems on the board, as well as brown gems on the board at a boost ratio that isn't even good in Arena, it is so low. As far as its ability, it does look like we're getting a trait that's probably going to be on quite a few troops this season, as we do have the Entangled Gem mechanic. This has the Snare Trap, a 10% chance to create an Entangled Gem when its turn begins. There are probably a lot of troops that are going to be getting this relatively useless trait, unfortunately. 10% is a little bit too low to only create one single gem, but basically once every 10 turns. That is very, very, very low. It also has Brown Link, which of course doesn't synergize as well, given that it would be a lot more beneficial if it was Green Link. I guess the fact that he's both green and brown based makes it a little bit more synergistic. However, there just really isn't a reason to bring this out, unless you're bringing him out for his Mana Link or something similar. You're pretty much not really going to need him. But this is a kingdom that generally needs Green Link if you're going to have any Link. And guess what this kingdom doesn't have? Green Link for some reason. It has Yellow Link and Brown now. I have no clue how it doesn't have green. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. It's one of the most green-based kingdom. Yet if you go to Forest of Thorns and look up green, there is not a single thing. Actually, I'll go show it right quick because we need to anyways to get to Forest of Thorns. But if we go over to Forest of Thorns, because we'll need this for the event key thing, go to show all. If I type in the word link here, there will be two. Also, did I not buy the trip yet? Oh, no, I did. I just didn't upgrade him. I was like, wait, why is he not upgraded? We have... Oh, wait, never mind. There actually is green. My bad, my bad. Okay, there are two things that have green. I was just thinking of these. You know why I thought there were 0 that have green? There are 0 elves in this location that have green, not 0 troops. This is relevant because on the Thursday class event, you can't use... you can only use elves. So, okay, there are green link here, but none of them are elves for some reason. Okay, I see what it is. But anyways, while we're here, so the event key drop table. Of course, event keys will drop Forest of Thorns troops this week, as it is a Forest of Thorns event week. So let's go over the very, very long list of things that are not in drop table. First, Array. This is basically a discontinued troop until they figure out what on earth they're doing with Guild War, as it was from Guild War, and currently we do not have Guild Wars for what is almost a whole year now, which is kind of insane. It doesn't feel like that, but yeah, we are almost at the 1 whole year mark of no Guild Wars. That is so, so high. Aside from that, other troops that are not in the event key drop table include the 5 faction troops from Primal Rift, as well as... I know I'm forgetting at least one other one. As well as the Immortal Virago, which is only from the Burning Chest drop table, as well as the Elemental Sentinel from the good old Underspire, at a very, very small chance when you go find dead-end rooms. As far as the event key drop table is concerned, should you really be opening any? Not really. There are a few utility troops that you might want to pick up, like 50% mana start to all elves underneath Legendary, and Forest Troll, which finds its way into some pretty good green teams, most notably with Truffle, or Beatrix, but mostly Truffle, as well as a few of the utility troops here, one in particular being, where's the good Empower one, that they added somewhat recently in the last year. Where'd it go? Power Green, there it is. Daughter of Yasmin. She's one of the 2 that do the double convert, or whatever you want to call this. We really need this for every single color in the entire game, but she is an Empower that converts into her own color that also storms into her own color. This is a very, very strong troop type, and they need to do this for every color already. We only have it for, what, 2, 3? But we definitely need it for every single one. And this one does it for green, which is a very strong mechanic. I don't feel like I use the green one that often, but the mechanic itself is pretty good. I feel like the color that needs it the most is probably brown? Brown or red? Particularly red. Red actually could use it pretty well too. But it's a fun mechanic. It storms into itself, empowers into itself, and converts into itself, and feeds into itself. So you can just empower with this and still gain overall mana, bleeding into everything else that you have on the team. So it ends up working out pretty well. But yeah, just a bunch of utility troops. All the upper ends, nothing really too special. Use it for things like the Underspire event this week, because you kind of have to. But beyond that, there isn't really much use case for most of the damage sources that are within this kingdom. Just mostly just some knick-knack support troops that find their way into teams ever so occasionally. That's the event key drop table for this week if you want to go open any of them, but pretty skippable unless you're looking to get a particular star level out of your Forest of Thorns. Beyond that, we have ourselves the Tower of Doom, and with this, we got ourselves the new weapon type. Of course, don't forget to actually use the new weapon in your team, even if you're not utilizing the weapon itself, as you do get 2 times score for having it on your team. As far as the weapon itself, it is unfortunately probably... Hey, we got T's. I got so distracted by that. T for tacit. There we go. But anyways, how did I get so distracted by that T? I don't think I ever pay attention to the emotes that we keep getting here, but I got extremely distracted by that T. Anyways, Doomed Aegis. These things are bad. These things are pretty bad. They're competing with, as I mentioned earlier, Urskia Shield and Golden Cog. Golden Cog basically doubling, or exactly doubling, a ally's armor, which upscales really well. And Urskia Shield's biggest gimmick is that it's a brown weapon that scales based on all enemy attack, I believe a 2-to-1. But this, as far as what it does, it gives a bunch of armor to an ally, +3 per templating level, so at max that'll be an extra 30. And then it gives a barrier to all brown allies, so if your whole team was brown, that'd be a barrier for everything, and stun all brown enemies. And if the enemy happens to have a Doom, it also converts 3 brown gems into giant brown gems. Overall, not much. It's just an armor gain with a few of the knickknack stuff. And a lot of that knickknack stuff, depending on what kind of team you're doing, you won't even get the benefit from. Biggest issue with this is that's not a lot of armor. We're talking at this range 70-something armor, like 78. I'm not sure if it's a little bit higher once we get all the other bonuses in a battle, but let's even say it's 100. That is not a lot compared to other things that can already boost up your armor. And to give up a whole slot for something to boost your armor just for something like this and still have to go use a boost ratio on your team, like a Tesla or a Rowan or Guard's Avatar, in this case probably Guard's Avatar given that it has brown synergy, though as far as this week, given that it's Forest of Thorns, it does have pretty good Rowan synergy, but I don't know, beyond that, like using it because it's a Forest of Thorns with Rowan, that is about its only really big benefit. You're never really going to use this over Urskia Shield in really any situation. If you have access to both Urskia Shield and this weapon, you're going Urskia Shield every single time. Obviously, there are restrictions like Underspire this week where you will be using it, as well as obviously the Doom this week, as you get double score for it. But overall, unfortunately, it does look like all 6 of these weapons are going to be relatively useless. The only use cases I could maybe see are for colorations, where it might be applicable. Let's say maybe, oh no, blue, where you might want to do like a Tesla build, but even then, Tesla generally wants a wide buff, not a single target buff. So, oh no, there might be like some colors where you can't use the other ones where it might be a little bit better. Well, of course, blue also applies to Rowan too, of course. But things that already have overlap with the already existing weapons, it just doesn't seem like you'll really ever use them, which is kind of unfortunate. So it does seem like over the next 6 months, or almost 6 months, like 5-ish months, you know, next 6 Doom events, this one and the next 5, unfortunately, it does seem like they're going to be towards the, unfortunately, slightly weaker side, and you will be forced to have to incorporate them into your Tower of Doom team. Anyways, as far as other events we have going on this week, one pretty useful one, this Friday, we have ourselves a Vault event weekend, as well as a new Mythic. We'll cover a video for that once it comes out, and do a key opening and all the normal stuff. But, yeah, new Mythic this Friday. Overall, looks like it might have some potential. We were able to see exactly what it does earlier. Not sure if Terran's World has it updated or not. But it's one of those choice mechanic troops from Volpacia, it looks like. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Obviously, choice mechanic troops have a lot of potential to be good. They've only done a very small handful of them that have actually been like a viable combination where, you know, both buttons are actually good. Generally speaking, on most of them, there's one that you click almost every single time. So hopefully this one can be balanced in a way where you actually do click both of them. And hopefully its first one is actually better, because I think on this one, I think it's the second one that is better, which is actually a little bit clunkier, because if you spam click it, you can auto basically go into the first option on a choice mechanic troop. But if it's their second option that is normally the one you're spamming, you actually have to go and manually click over to it, unlike if it's on the first slot. So a little bit more annoying, but as long as both of them are good, it's ideal. Anyways, other things that we have going on this week. Tuesday, Primal Rift Faction, green-purple restriction. Wednesday, we got this little mushroom guy, gives you some extra magic. Oh wait, never mind. Wait, that's a different one. We're getting something for Forest of Thorns. Wait, this is the one that we already had activated. We'll have just a standard Forest of Thorns pet on Wednesday. Thursday, we have ourselves the class event for Archer hero class. Archer is pretty decent. Used to be the best hero class in the game. These days is slightly above average. 50% Mana Start, Green Storm, has stuff like that going for it. And of course, as we mentioned, this Friday we have Faction event. Speaking of which, we also have the calendar for the entire month. Okay, that's the one we're getting. We're getting that pet on Wednesday. But we do have the entire calendar for the month of September. Noteworthy things that are occurring is we're getting a Kingdom rework for Kedar, as well as the little thingy that we have for that. during next week. So we'll have that starting on next Monday. As we already mentioned, we have a Vault event this weekend, as well as a new Mythic that Friday. Other big thing is Talk Like a Pirate Day. We are getting a new pet on the 18th. And sometime during this time, the PvP season will also be concluding, and we'll be getting into the next PvP season, which will allow us to get a lot of burning marks, as at the beginning of every single burning mark, there'll be a huge potential to gain them compared to the bottleneck that you kind of get later on in a PvP season. Not sure if any of you guys have finished it recently, or if you've already had it done for a while, but if you have, you kind of know that, yeah, you kind of stop getting burning marks after a little while, because once you finish out the Kingdom Pass, or not the Kingdom Pass, but, you know, the PvP Pass, even if you're just doing the free side, you kind of burn out on, well, most of your burning marks. It's really front-loaded, especially if you try to rush it down. But even if you don't try to rush it down, you know, by the end of the year, you're still pretty much used up all the rewards, or gotten all the rewards, so I need to wait till the next season before you can really cash out on more. But we will be getting that new season soon. Anyways, beyond that, Soulforge. So as far as Soulforge is concerned, decent handful of mythics that are decent. Not really ones you'd necessarily go out of your way for, but potentially if you're getting to the point where you have most of them. Ferris Raw, most noteworthy thing. Best soul gainer in the entire game. Has 150% extra soul gain. Really good for anything ever that uses soul boost ratio. I wouldn't say there's currently any meta around a 4 times like soul boost ratio team, but if it ever was to return, Ferris Raw is pretty much required for that team, so good to have at least one of them. These days you don't necessarily use them for soul farming because you could just farm so much better during a Vault event weekend, aka this weekend, during that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you don't tend to really need Ferris Raw anymore, like back in the day where you use pretty much the only really viable way to gain souls. But you can still use them. It's good to always hold on to at least one in case souls become meta randomly all of a sudden. Unfortunately, with the Ghost Gem mechanic that had the extra soul gain, he didn't end up becoming particularly good, but, you know, I only need like a troop or two coming into the game that could just instantly make him amazing. Next, we have ourselves Infernus. Infernus, really well-rounded mythic. Generally not used too much these days, as it's mostly burning mythic, and when it comes to burning mythics, you normally just go for Zolgoth in most situations. But he does have a storm into himself, he has mana accumulation, he has a decent amount of spread damage that bypasses Submerge. He kind of just covers a little bit of everything. Not too viable these days, but we're really well-rounded if you're just looking for a mythic that can do a little bit of everything. Next, we have Wild Queen. Wild Queen, most noteworthy, is really good on Green Guild War. There's a problem with that, though. We don't have Green Guild War anymore. Maybe next time when Green Guild War exists, or, you know, whatever the next Guild War that exists, maybe she'll be viable for it. As she currently stands, she doesn't really have a place. She is really good at controlled skull damage. She ends up stealing attack from your target, and basically you make the prediction on will you kill or will you not kill first slot. If you will kill it, you target second slot. If you won't kill it, or think you won't kill it, you target first slot. And this will make it so that your next enemy in line, the one that's about to hit you when you inevitably end your turn, will have a reduced amount of attack that will barely do anything, while your first slot will have a heightened attack from the attack that you stole. Also be able to create green skulls. She has a little bit less of a usage compared to something like Wild King, the same thing from her own kingdom. Wild King just has a lot more overall damage, has Enrage, and it has a higher chance of dying that generally doesn't matter in most of the modes that you'd be using it these days. Whereas most of the modes these days, you don't really care too much about using Wild Queen, but she still has her viability if you're ever doing something where you want to use skulls but also don't want to lose, which is her main kind of gimmick as far as where she could be used. When it comes to speed, the other thing from her kingdom, the Wild King or Lord of Slaughter, or, you know, other things like that, tend to have a little bit of an edge on her as far as usage rate is concerned. As far as weapons, I would say there's only one particularly above average weapon. The rest of them you'd pretty much just get for completionist sake. Though do keep in mind, if you do want to get the new shield, do get it from the Doom event for 500 gems. Do not get it from Soulforge. It is generally way better overall value if you go for it through the Tower of Doom event. But as far as if you do want to pick up a weapon, aside from completionist sake weapons, I would say Elemental Bow. I feel like it's really clunky to use in a lot of elemental teams, mostly because a lot of elemental teams struggle to feed mana back to it. It's really good at feeding other elementals, but just not as good at getting the mana back into the bow itself. But really good for 4 times elemental teams. You would end up using it almost always with Mirage Queen and as elemental hero class, and then you just fill out the other 2. So it really just comes down to its synergy in the future with what those other 2 are. There are already plenty of ways that you can use it now. I just feel like it never gets all of its mana back. Its first cast is amazing, but then everything beyond that is you better hope that the rest of your team wins before you run out of mana, because it's just really annoying with most elemental teams to cycle back that mana back. Really easy at getting them the mana, but harder to cycle it back into his weapon, especially since you do Green Storm, which does not feed into it. Obviously, blue and green also do not feed back into it, so you need either explosions or something similar, and there just aren't as many elementals that can really do that currently, at least as well. Compared to looping back into themselves, like Truffle over and over again back into itself. Anyways, beyond that, we do have teams today. Actually, I feel like we've been covering teams in almost all of these. Not sure if this is going to continue, but hey, we do have teams again. So all these will be in the description below if you want to go and copy paste of them, as well as the pinned comment. As far as the first team that we have here, we have ourselves so what is this? Brown Doom. So of course, for Brown Doom, you have to use a pure brown team, as well as the Doomed Aegis, which will give you 2 times points. For this, we're using a Hiking Iron Gut quick kill team. Keep in mind, Hiking Iron Gut cannot kill the Doom. However, you can just move him into first slot for those battles if you so choose. You can also just deliberately let your Bork die. Unlike something like Underworld, your team does get full reset every single battle, so you can simply sacrifice your Bork, let your Hiking Iron Gut get the Devourers up to that point, and then by the time your Bork dies, you will have like 500 plus attack or whatever it is based on how deep you are in the Doom event. And of course, you do want to get down to that floor 25 completion and be able to claim all of your extra scrolls. But we're just doing this for our Devour spam using the Pharaoh Kafru to curse, as well as get all the mana. And this we just have to use. Unfortunately, we're not really utilizing it much for its armor. For this next team, we are utilizing it a little bit for its armor. Ideally, you'd want to go something like Guard's Avatar, but Guard's Avatar is a Mythic. So what do you run if you don't have that? Well, we have a Bomba. It's a common. It has the same boost ratio, oddly enough, as Guard's Avatar, a 2-to-1, based on all the armor it has. The biggest downside of this, with his armor boost ratio and his full AoE damage, is he does die after he casts. So you better make sure you have enough damage from this Aegis to go and one-shot, or at least do very substantial damage. And then from there, you just go and clean up the team with whatever you get from Steam Whistle. However, you can also replace this out for just another damage source if you so choose. Just make sure it's not another Bomba, otherwise you're going to run out of team very quickly. But this is a legend. However, if it's a legend, you get pretty much for free from just doing Tinkertown. Just throw some shards there and you'll get it very quickly. It's one of those very easy to get faction troops. You can also use Zachi if you want. Zachi is a full AoE that does 5 explodes if you have a Storm in play. It can end up being a good offset damage if you need to clean up from Bombot. This is a little bit safer, but you can go either way. I just figured we'd do something that end up using the Doomed Aegis to actually give it some amount of value. Next, we have ourselves the, what is this? The faction team for the Primal Rift, which is a green-purple restriction, though do keep in mind you are allowed to run any colored hero weapon. With that being said, we are running the new Doomed Aegis here, mostly just to kind of show it since we're never going to probably use it again after this week. However, keep in mind, Urskia's shield is pretty much always going to be stronger, and as well as Golden Cog and such, so it just seems weird. These things just do not do enough armor. I'm not sure why they did so low, and also only one target instead of like full AoE or something. They've been really hit or miss with Doom weapons. They either make them really good and actually usable, or the most useless things ever. And for whatever reason, every single buff weapon, unless I'm forgetting one, feels like they're so bad as far as the Doom category is concerned. Like, we got the life ones, they were bad. We got the armor ones, they were bad. I think there's some other angle out there that they did, and those are also bad if they exist. They just don't do Doom buff weapons particularly well, unfortunately, especially when compared to other buff weapons that are of the same category that already exist. It's kind of weird. Anyways, pretty standard Rowain team. You can use your Skier Shield or whatever else you want there if you so choose. Next, we have ourselves a little bit of a skull spam team. We're doing this Mang with Lord of Slaughter. Pharaoh just to feed Brown into everything, because this also uses Brown to convert them into Doom Skulls. And pretty standard Leprechaun. Leprechaun can't go wrong with just a lot of free mana accumulation. As far as Spear Faction is concerned, it's essentially to spam Alderfather and put anything at first slot. I'm just putting this here because it's 25% Skull Reflect. The main thing that we're going to be utilizing this for is to kill out your first slot. Which might seem weird because, of course, you permanently lose your things when you die in Underworld. However, this has a resummon. He summons either a Trent or a Green Golem. Green Golem's not too good. You can already start with this on your team. However, Trent is something you can't start with your team. Trent is not a... it's a Forest of Thorns troop, but it's not a Primal Rift troop. And for that, it doesn't count as Pure Faction Primal Rift when you're going for 500 or whatever category you're going for. So you can't start with a Trent. However, you are allowed to end with one. So you let your first slot die, you then get a Trent in there, and then boom, you auto-win. Trent ends up removing all brown while gaining a bunch of attack and armor, and generally speaking, anything in the entirety of Pure Faction Underworld, when you can gain both attack and a durability stat, you basically just auto-win. You just keep buffing them up over and over and over again. You get them to the point where they can one-shot, two-shot the enemies. It's bulky enough that it's not going to die. It even has 50% score reduction in this case to keep you even tankier. Unfortunately, no barrier, though. And then, yeah, just take a few skulls and they all die. And that's pretty much how a lot of pure factions go, this one being no different. The better part is, though, is aside from having infinite resummon to set up with, you also have skull spam, as well as a whole mana accumulation. So it should go pretty quick, just need to kill out your first slot and get the Trent going. But once the Trent gets going, it's pretty auto-win from there. And even if it dies, you just resummon it again, as long as you have at least one of the legends left. Next, we have ourselves the Archer Hero class. For this, you have to use elves that are from the Forest of Thorns. Unfortunately, not a single Green Link elf, as we were mentioning earlier. Green Link does exist within the kingdom, but not a single one on an elf for whatever reason. The main premise of this team is going to be using Daughter of Yasmin into any green weapon you have that hits all enemies, and that's basically the whole team. Everything else is just extra things, just for whatever's sake. But the whole premise is just cast this, cast your weapon, win, and repeat. Next, we have ourselves the Underspire. So as far as Underspire, of course, it is restricted to Forest of Thorns. However, this also includes Forest of Thorns weapons. In this first team, we're actually not even using a weapon. We're just using whatever our best damage source is into just a safe tank team. We have an Emerald Giant up here just to get ourselves a little bit of tankiness as well as extra Giant Gems. And he'll be able to feed green into everything on our team, which is everything. All 4 of them are green. King Bloodward we're using as our primary damage source, so you can use pretty much any of them from the kingdom. For the cheaper team, we just use the free epic that you get from the kingdom. Alderfather, of course, also really accessible. You just get it from the Primal Rift. You just store some Chaos Shards there. Really easy to get. Not only does he have double convert into skull, but he also has, while also doing green, which is very useful since you need a ton of green. Or sorry, he does it to purple. Never mind. He only feeds back into himself. I wish he did green. This one does green. He does not do green. But he ends up doing the same summon as before, either a Trent or a Green Golem. And similarly, if you get a Trent in there, pretty useful. Beyond that, yeah, Daughter of Yasmin. Just do a red-green convert, get your green storm, get a bunch of mana. Does Alpha Empower, gets really quick. As far as our lower rarity team, we're doing this with, of course, Rowain. And we're using Doomed Aegis. This is one of the few situations where it is actually probably a good weapon. This is because Forest of Thorns doesn't really have too good of another armor buff weapon. There's one that does life and armor, but I believe it's like $5 money locked, and it's not even as good as this anyways. So, yeah, you would just use this into Rowain, cast Rowain, win. Unfortunately, this won't scale as well as Urskia's Shield or similar weapons, which is going to be a bit of a problem if you're trying to go all the way through the Underspire this week. As once you hit like the 5th section, the 6th section, you're definitely going to notice a slowdown. Probably even earlier than that, but particularly in those later sections, because it doesn't upscale like Urskia's Shield. Like around the really low range, this is pretty comparable to Urskia's Shield, but once you start getting really, really high level range, this falls off very heavily compared to other armor gaining hero weapon options. But in Forest of Thorns is the best you have. So if you want to run a Rowain, it's going to be the way that you have to end up running it. And as far as Alderfather, same premise. It's kind of skull spamming, using this to stay tanky, as well as extra green mana accumulation, since we're not using the Empower in this particular situation as far as our team is concerned. And then, of course, this weekend we just have ourselves the Void event weekend, which no need to really show teams. They're pretty much the same as always, but, you know, there's Ironhawk Quick Kill, Ironhawk Quick Kill, and if you don't have any of that, you just run Rowain Quick Kill or whatever your quickest option is, though generally it's Rowain Quick Kill, which is kind of like the other team we had there, but structured with all the better stuff. The 50% mana start that it needs, the Leprechaun to get things rolling, and any weapon you feel like, as long as it's not blocking your Rowain, as well as any hero class you want in order to feed free classic speed to it. A lot of free classic speed you can get while getting all the other great rewards. But anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe out there. And next time we do anything, we should be on the new computer. So if our voice sounds a little bit different on the next video, like when we do the Mythic this Friday or something similar, it's because I have everything set up to the new computer. Hopefully, fingers crossed by then. So, yeah, if we have any technical difficulties, we'll blame it on the computer. No, hopefully I'll be able to get everything set up as per how it is right now. But if anything is off, that's the reason why. But anyways, guys, I will catch you guys later. I will be streaming tonight, as we always do, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be going over all the teams, messing around with them in all the game modes, particularly Tower of Duel, messing with the new shield, though unfortunately, not that good. And going from there. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys later. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching. Definitely feel free to leave a like on the video. Helps a lot and is greatly appreciated.